All right, let's power up and dive into one of the most incredible processes in all of biology, cellular respiration. This is the microscopic engine inside every single one of us that turns the food we eat into, well, everything we do. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? What is actually going on inside you that lets you run, jump, think, or even just breathe? That energy has to come from somewhere, right? And the story of how your body makes it is just fascinating. That's right. As you're sitting here listening to this, trillions, not millions, trillions of tiny power plants inside your cells are working like crazy just to keep you going. It's this constant, amazing biological reaction. So come on, let's zoom way in and see how this engine really works. Okay, so to get a handle on the energy in our cells, we've got to follow the trail. And that trail starts all the way back at its ultimate source, about 93 million miles from here. It all kicks off with the sun, which is basically a giant nuclear reactor in the sky. Plants then pull off this incredible trick called photosynthesis. They capture that sunlight and pack its energy into a simple but really potent sugar molecule, glucose. So when we eat plants, or we eat animals that ate plants, we're literally eating stored sunlight. How cool is that? And that brings us to the main event. So what is cellular respiration? In a nutshell, it's the process our cells use to crack open that glucose, unlock all that stored solar energy, and turn it into something usable. They take the glucose, mix it with the oxygen we breathe, and convert it into the body's official energy currency, a molecule called ATP. The leftovers from this process are just carbon dioxide, which we breathe out, and water. The whole thing happens in three major acts. The first one is called glycolysis. And the name basically tells you everything you need to know, because it literally means sugar splitting. This is the first crack at that glucose molecule. This step happens out in the cytoplasm, which is kind of the main fluid-filled space of the cell. And what's really amazing is that it doesn't need any oxygen at all. This is a huge clue for scientists. It suggests that glycolysis is an incredibly ancient process, probably used by the very first life forms on Earth. So what's the result? That one big glucose molecule gets split into two smaller molecules called pyruvate. And those are going to be the fuel for the next stage. Now, you know the old saying, you have to spend money to make money? Well, it's pretty much the same with energy. The cell actually has to put a little bit of its own energy in just to get this whole sugar-splitting party started. But don't worry, there's a payoff coming. So let's do the accounting. We start our books with our one molecule of glucose, all ready to be processed. And to kick things off, the cell has to make a little investment. It spends two molecules of its ATP energy currency to get that glucose ready to break. But hey, that investment pays off. As the glucose molecule splits apart, the process generates a total of 4 new ATP molecules. So let's see. 4 made minus the 2 we spent, that leaves us with a net profit of just 2 ATP. I mean, it's a start, but it's not nearly enough to power something as complex as us. We're going to need a whole lot more. And this is where the action really heats up. Those 2 pyruvate molecules we just made are now on the move. They travel from the cytoplasm into a special, dedicated part of the cell's very own power plant. Say hello to the mitochondrion. If the cell is a bustling city, mitochondria are the power stations keeping all the lights on. This is where the next 2 stages happen, and believe me, this is where the real energy jackpot is waiting. Once inside, that pyruvate gets converted and enters an 8-step loop called the citric acid cycle. Now, you'd think its main job would be to crank out ATP, but surprisingly, it's not. It only makes about 2 ATP. Its real job is to act like a charging station. It systematically strips high-energy electrons off the carbon molecules and loads them onto these special shuttle molecules called NADH and FADH2. You can think of them as tiny, rechargeable battery packs. The main goal here is just to charge up as many of those little batteries as possible for the final step. And now, for the moment we've all been waiting for. All of those fully charged energy shuttles are making their way to the final stage, where the vast, vast majority of our energy is finally going to be unlocked. So this final stage is where it all comes together. First, those shuttle molecules, NADH and FADH2, arrive and drop off their high-energy electrons at something called the electron transport chain. Think of it like a bucket brigade. As the electrons get passed down a line of proteins, they release energy. That energy is used to pump protons across a membrane, building up a huge amount of pressure, kind of like water behind a dam. And waiting at the very end of the line to scoop up those used electrons, that would be oxygen. This is the whole reason you're breathing right now. And that water behind a dam idea is the perfect way to picture what happens next.
All those protons that were pumped out now rush back in through a remarkable molecular machine called ATP synthase. This powerful flow of protons spins part of the machine, just like a stream of water spinning a water wheel. And that spinning motion is what provides the power to generate a massive, and I mean massive amount of ATP.
How massive, you ask? This one stage can produce around 28 ATP from that single starting glucose molecule. It absolutely dwarfs the output from the first two stages combined. This, right here, is the great energy payoff.
Okay, so let's put it all together. Let's step back and see what our final energy count looks like after this incredible 3-act journey.
When you look at the final numbers, the story is crystal clear. Glycolysis out in the cytosol gave us a net of 2 ATP. The citric acid cycle gave us another 2. But then the grand finale, oxidative phosphorylation, delivered a whopping 28 ATP. All told, that's a grand total of about 32 ATP from just one little molecule of glucose. Not a bad return.
And this chart just says it all, doesn't it? That final stage, oxidative phosphorylation, is responsible for nearly 90% of the energy your cells make. It is, without a doubt, the main engine powering your body.
And you know, while we've been focusing on glucose, the truly beautiful thing about this system is how flexible it is. The breakdown products from fats and from proteins can also get funneled into these pathways. So ultimately, pretty much all the energy from every kind of food you eat gets channeled through these same microscopic engines.
So just think about that for a second. Every single breath you take is delivering the oxygen that is absolutely essential for that final, massive energy payoff happening in trillions of your cells. You're not just breathing, you are actively fueling the most sophisticated and efficient energy network on the entire planet, you.